Welcome everybody to the Raw Cave show. We have Frank Jay Porcaro in the studio. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
For those who don't know Frank, he is an incredibly powerful motivational speaker. He's a transformational coach and has his own, he's a co-founder of a company called Tribe Design, International Tribe Design, which is all about running transformational retreats all around the world, dealing with, focusing on raw authenticity and communication, and they're super powerful. I went to one 2 weeks ago, and with Rebecca Jackson, and it was 4 hours of like a boot camp, I guess you could say, and how you got the group in such a short period of time to tap into their heart and feel vulnerability. I was just blown away. I've never seen that before. So I was like, Frank, dude, I got to get you on the Raw Cave, introduce you to everyone. I'm excited for you to be here, man. It's early in the morning. It's freezing here.
It's cold.
So cold.
It's good though. It's good for the body.
And really, the vision for this channel is to help show everybody that there are examples of young people out there following their heart and inspiring and doing what they love to do. And so, ideally, people can watch this and go, if these guys can do it, I can do it as well. That's
right.
Really the intention. So I'd like to just start off with your story and how you got to be here today.
Man,
it's a big question.
That's a big question, and that can be told in so many ways too. I grew up. My father left when I was a baby, and he got into drugs and went down a really dark path, let's just say. And my mother was left with 3 kids on her own, and she, I imagine, had so much trauma from the relationship with my father on her, and then left with 3 kids, having to make ends meet just to take care of us. And so she had a lot of stress, and there's a lot of situations out there where families, we don't have a manual on how to handle stress. Some people don't know about this personal development industry. They don't know about how to nurture yourself, what foods to eat. And so they're out there working and really have overwhelming life situations, as such my mom. And so when she would come home and she would have all the stress bottled up, she had to take care of 3 crazy little kids, often she would break and take out trauma on us in a way, and mentally, physically, emotionally. And so growing up, it was a very destructive and violent household. I mean, there was moments of love and there was moments of that as well, but I grew up very confused, angry. My father wasn't there. I had no discipline, and so I was looking outside for my identity with my friends. And so I would go out with my friends, get in trouble, break stuff. I started doing drugs early on, and was fighting and had this whole identity of trying to be the cool kid, when inside I was destructive. I was dysfunctional. And at 18 years old, going through this whole life experience, I finally hit rock bottom, and my friends moved off to college, and I stayed home, and I got a job in a nursing home. And at that time, I was like feeling sensations in my body that I haven't really felt in a long time. My family was the most distant. All my friends that I thought were like loyal brothers, all moved away to college, and I'm home with like the drug addicts that aren't really doing anything with their life. And so I'm in a nursing home too, where I go from partying, being thinking I'm invincible, like life doesn't matter, to like witnessing people on their deathbed. And so my whole world flipped upside down real quick. And I just remember walking through the halls and people screaming, help me, I want to die, help me. And then like seeing someone fall and bash their head on the floor and gushing blood, and then like having a conversation with this old lady and she telling me her life story, and then the next day she would die. And like it was just so much was going on. And not only that, just like contemplating all the shame and the guilt, cheating on my high school sweetheart, and all these things, and like second guessing who I was and my friends, and there was a lot going on. And so I just remember just pondering life just day after day after day, and realizing that no one around me was really happy. And it was so weird. And the people on their deathbed, a large portion of them were regretting their life. They would tell me, go travel the world, go have fun. Get more educated so that you can have more to provide for your family. Forgive the ones that you actually care about, because a lot of that stuff doesn't matter. you know, and man, and I just remember a lot of them were regretting their life on their deathbed, and I just remember sitting at the table with my coworkers, and my coworkers were complaining about life. People on their deathbed were regretting their life. And my family was so distant. I had no real friends at the time. I'm sitting there lonely, like feeling like I'm internally suffering with this anxiety and depression. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, if I don't take personal responsibility for my life, nothing's gonna change. And I sort of thought about the future of me being miserable, just like everyone else I knew, and I just couldn't bear that thought. It was that painful that I basically went on a journey. And I went on a journey to try everything to function. My first goal was to function. That's what I wanted to do.
Your goal.
And I actually hurt my back at the time, and so my whole body, everything was like discombobulated. So I went to acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractic. I went to psychologist, psychiatrist. I was doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking, I was seeking. And when you seek, you shall find. But if you seek and don't give up, you shall find, is the truth, right? People sometimes seek and they don't find, and then they give up. But if you seek and you don't give up, you will find. And I started to basically document my whole life, because I had a feeling, I had a knowing that before I knew about personal development, all these philosophical ideas, I just knew that I was meant to go through that for a reason. I just had like a little inkling that there was something more. This is not all there is. And it was hard. I had a lot of desperate feelings and loneliness and depression. But I knew, and I went through it, and I started to write things down, and I started to learn, and I looked at it as a journey. And it was a period of years, and progressively I got better. And there was more information that I came across as I went on the journey, and I started to apply the things that I actually learned because I was hungry. I linked up in my brain that if I didn't change, if I didn't positively improve, then I was going to die. And I know this is pretty radical, but the fact that I believe that, I made huge progress in a very short amount of time. Like if I don't change my life positively, I'm gonna die. That's what I believed. And so in a short amount of time, I mean, I'm studying, I'm coming across books, I'm doing things that I didn't even think that I would like to do. Yeah. I started to discover talents and abilities inside myself that I didn't even know I had. I was a football player and an athlete. I didn't know that I had this creative ability to write poems and write, and I actually like reading and philosophy. I didn't know that because I didn't care about school. I had an identity of like being the athlete and the kid that got in trouble. That was my identity. And so I started to notice all these talents and abilities and skills and interests, and I was opening myself up a bit more. And I stopped hanging out with my friends, I stopped watching TV, I stopped everything, and I just went on this internal journey, and I started to discover information, and I was applying it, and I was getting results really, really quick at a young age. And so that all happened at 18, and through 18 to like 22, I made a complete transformation. And yes, that's sort of the story. Yeah, and then eventually, I was getting results. I was a personal trainer for a long time, and I was asking my clients, and I was learning from people, and I was helping people in that sense. And then eventually I realized that I had this tendency and this passion for speaking and connecting with people, and I started to speak to youth all around the United States and South America. And I was on the journey, and I was doing different coaching and professional speaking, and started learning about that industry. Then got connected with my friend Daniel Eisenman, which had a retreat company that was basically hosting retreats with his brothers called the Raw Bras on a raw authenticity. They've been doing it for about 4 years, and then him and I collaborated about a year ago, and then we created the International Tribe Design, and now I'm here today. And so yeah, that's like the whole thing in a nutshell. But yeah.
It's because you were supposed to go home or go traveling last week, and then you stayed in town. That's why we could actually do this interview.
I know, it's super interesting.
Otherwise, yeah, you would have been where were you going?
I'm going to LA and then to New Jersey, and then on my way. But I was gonna leave about a week and a half ago, and I decided to stay for another week, basically until my visa's done. So it'll be 3 months when I leave. 3 months in Australia.
Love it. What's been the best part of Australia? Apart from the people.
Apart from the people, you said?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I like the food.
Yeah.
The birds. And the beautiful women.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's beautiful, healthy women, and
Yeah.
there's healthy, beautiful people all around. And like
Nice.
the places that I've been in Byron Bay and Manly, basically,
Oh,
those are the places I spend most of my time in. This incredible
Paradise.
health conscious
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
We have it so good here in Australia. You guys got to come.
Yeah.
Come on over. So, like this topic of authenticity, then, I think is just not spoken about very often, especially among the younger crew. Like, I notice when I have, I can get in my head a lot sometimes. I used to get really stressed and like really want to make things happen. But now, like being able to relax and connect inward,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more effective and I actually enjoy life way more.
Yeah.
It's like such a shift, What was your experience with learning about vulnerability, and how do you how does someone learn to be more vulnerable?
That's a good question. I think raw authenticity can be described in many different ways. Early on, I'll explain it in two ways that I personally have experienced. So early on, I realized that I had this identity as a child where I was with like alpha males, or at least they try to be alpha males, like on the outside, right? And it's like, oh, if you eat a salad, you're gay.
Yeah, right.
And right, so I'm thinking like if I eat a salad, then that means I might be gay. Right, and like it's stupid stuff like that. But it's all identified, trying to be someone for a group of people to belong. And so early on, how I was practicing raw authenticity was like just owning my truth. And like I'm eating a freaking salad.
Yeah.
And it's like that's silly. Or like I would start to write or get more comfortable in my skin and be able to move in public without people judging, or like not caring if people are judging me, to be able to express myself. I was feeling like that was it was like coming out of a shell, because what I was taught and conditioned, which I believe a lot of us are early on, that if it depends on where we grow up in the group that we're in, but I think that I was in a position where if I would express myself fully, then I would be judged. And I cared so much about my friends and what they thought about me. And so I feel like early on, I just started to say, hey, I like poetry, and that I like eating healthy. I like doing this, and this is my truth, and just owning that. And being able to express myself, to dance in public, and to sing when I can't really sing, but just to be able to express. So self-expression was huge for me. And that was part of being, I think that's a part of being vulnerable. Now,
but did someone show you that? Did you read? You didn't read in a book, or did you see on a video? Like, did you choose to do that? Or did you have an example of oh, he's doing it, well, maybe I can do it as well?
I think that I may have observed other people that express themselves, and I was just like, wow, it's amazing. Why do we like celebrities, like singers and artists and musicians and actors and actresses? Why do we like them? Because they just express themselves like fully, and we're like, wow. And we're just like just inspired and admire these human beings that are just fully expressing themselves. And I realized that most people weren't expressing themselves that way.
Yeah.
And I felt rotten. I felt like I was in this little cage. One of the ideas that impacted me the most, and it's part of my message, is the word confidence, embodying a sense of confidence. And I'm not talking about a personality sense of confidence. I'm talking about the Latin origin of the word confidence actually comes from the word confidere, which means to have full trust. Right? And so I went on this journey of saying, hey, I'm going to have full trust in who I am and own my truth. Because I was always scared that if I would be the best that I can be, then other people might be jealous of me, and I didn't want them to feel jealous. Or they might not like me, or whatever. So I came up with this idea that, hey, if I'm my best self, they'll either two things will happen. They will be inspired to be their best self, and I would show them by example, or two, I would piss them off, and I'd get them jealous. But that's their problem. And not only that, if I piss them off or trigger them by me being the best I can be, then in the long run, then they may have to look at themselves, and that might spark them to be better as well. And so it was one of these things where it's like, hey, I know I have so much potential, and I was afraid to show it. I was afraid to shine the light. And I think this is actually a more apparent issue with most people. It's not afraid of failure. It's actually afraid of success.
Yeah.
It's afraid of our
totally
light
agree.
and how much we can shine. Because in some subconscious belief, if we shine so bright, then people may not like us or we may not be accepted or something.
Yeah.
And I felt that, and it was apparent. And I was like, no, I'm going to embrace self-expression and be free and discover who I am. And so that was part of the vulnerability that I started to learn. But I also had the overachiever personality as well, where like I would go, and like if I let's say did something that I like, if I broke down or something, I would get like pissed off and I would try to like put it down and suppress it and like no, focus. And then I met my friend Daniel Eisenman, that's been basically doing radical honesty, raw authenticity for years, and he's not afraid to call you out on your shit. And then I started to rediscover myself this last year and a half in a whole new authentic way, and being real honest with myself, telling myself the truth, and being able to embrace that, and learning real tools on how to communicate like this. Before it was like an inkling, I kind of knew it, and I was kind of expressing myself in that vulnerable way. Yeah. But then I started to learn how to really be honest, really embrace vulnerability, really.
Okay guys, we had a technical difficulty and it sucks. It sucks. I'm sorry, man. What happened is Frank left just a second, 4 hours ago now.
4 hours ago.
and I looked at the footage and there was only a certain amount of footage on the card, and I just went, my head just super pissed off, and I had to make that authentic call to you, and I was like, I just got to be straight up with him. So this is an example of just being totally straight up and authentic. And I said to him, I was like, sorry man, I fucked up.
Well, it happens. This happened to me so many times where we're like awesome testimonials or an awesome video we just did and like press the wrong button. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes like that just happens in life, where you're going on an awesome path and like some big obstacle comes and tries to knock you off, and you just got to keep going forward.
Yeah,
that's it. And so we're here, we're making it happen. I got a new haircut in the meantime.
Jeans on.
We're back. So we're back in action.
All right, cool. So where we left off, guys, was talking about embracing vulnerability, and there's an awesome technique that you teach that helps people practice vulnerability, I guess you could say. So
right.
It was the Imagine.
Okay, cool. So
do you want to share that with us?
Yes, definitely. So I think we left off where over this last year I've been getting into retreat settings where there's a group of people coming from all around the world, and we're practicing this technology of raw, authentic communication. And there's tools, there's ways to communicate. And one of the tools that we do, it's a fundamental tool of noticing versus imagining. And so as human beings, we all judge. You know, the people say, "Oh, I don't judge you," or it's a non-judgmental zone. That's BS. I think it's hardwired in our brain, in our psychology, to judge people. Right? We all have judgments, assumptions, and we can all put that in the category of imagination. And so, for example, I notice you have, right, this is what I used before. I notice you have this the shirt around your muscles, I notice, as specific as possible, are tight. The shirt is tight around your muscles. That's what I noticed. And I imagine you're wearing this shirt to show off your muscles, and you may be egotistical, right? And so this is just an imagination. Yeah. And so some people would have this imagination with a certain behavior of another individual, and they're like, oh, they're just this type of person or that, and then we put them in categories. And the whole idea of raw, authentic communication or raw honesty is not to be blunt. You know, some people I say, oh, I do retreats on raw honesty, and they're like, oh, well, I'm honest all the time. I tell that person how it is. And it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. The foundation is unconditional love. And so it's really noticing the imaginations or the judgments and not being attached to them. Knowing that thoughts are just thoughts. But it's actually going up to that person and saying, hey, I noticed you do this, and I imagine this. What is the truth? Because the whole idea is like, I want to connect with this person despite our disagreements. And even if you had something that was not in alignment with what I would like, it's like, can we still love each other including our disagreements or differences. Right? And how would we ever know what we have in common if I don't approach you? So I'm like, hey, you know, I'm allowing myself to feel a little insecure right now, but I just wanted to express myself to you because I want to have a closer relationship with you. I noticed this and I imagine this. And I'm just curious, is that true? Curious is a great place to start, and it's not too intense. It's not direct. It's a very indirect way of communicating, but it's also very welcoming, and it shows the person a lot of respect. And you lead a vulnerable conversation by first you being vulnerable. And so by saying, hey, I'm curious, I just wanted to get to know you a bit more. I noticed this, I imagine this. So it's a very fundamental tool, and it's really cool because it brings people together. Like, for example, the co-founder of International Tribe Design, my partner in business, Daniel Eisman, he and my other friend Jiro, which are both in this industry, and they met, and Daniel expressed some jealousy to Jiro, and Jiro was taken back, and then he expressed his little bit of jealousy to Daniel, and they realized they both had something in common, rather than having this secret resentment or resistance that can typically disconnect people. And so it's just being vulnerable, just noticing these things come up, and noticing that this is imagination, but not being attached to our thoughts or judgments / imaginations. And so it's a very simple tool that y'all can use.
And it's practice at the end of the day.
It's practice.
It takes time, and you're not going to get it overnight. And it starts with ourselves, you know, being honest with ourselves and being able to help other people with it as well. Last couple of weeks, I've had to have some pretty confronting conversations.
Fun, comfortable conversations.
And they, as a result of doing them, it was, you know, there was resistance doing them, but it's like going to the gym, like it built that muscle of it though now, so it's becoming easier and easier. And I wish, it's probably one of the things, I think within my family there's been a lot of miscommunication. I just, you know, if there was something like this, it would have reduced a lot of the I guess the challenges that we have now. You know, so it's communication.
It communicates to everything. I noticed that in my family. I noticed how certain family members, because their lack of ability to communicate was disconnecting the whole family, because it was disconnecting them with another individual. And so this whole bridge is the communication, the bridge of like having a solution and sharing it with another individual and having them really hear it. The whole bridge of connection is that way we communicate. And so if we can learn to communicate more effectively, but the whole idea of, I think, communicating more effectively is just taking personal responsibility and not being so attached. Most of the time when people are talking to us or blaming us or doing some sort of projection onto us, it's a reflection of them. And so what happens is two egos start to fight because we're both afraid to be exposed, or we're both afraid to die. That's what the ego, I think, thinks. So when one's expressing themselves, if you can be in a place of transparency in the sense of just allowing it to come in and watching it, observing it, and not being so attached to it, and asking yourself, how is this person using me as a reflection for them? And it's also not taking out the responsibility off of you that may have triggered them, but then you also look inside and say, hey, what did I do? What is this person reflecting me? What are they picking up on me? But not being so attached to it, just observing it and really looking at it without trying to react. And that's a very powerful place to be.
It's I love it. I love it though. It's something about it. It's just like living. So I just want to switch gears and go more into. You mentioned some of your, like, before we did the interview, there was a few like rituals that you do with your body to like get you into state.
Right.
Do you want to can you share some of your morning rituals and how you use them to?
Okay, morning rituals. Like there's been stages in my life where I've been much more intense with my morning rituals. There's times where I woke up at 4 a.m. and I structured 4 hours. Like every minute was structured. Yeah. Literally. Like 10 minutes I read, 10 minutes I write my journal, 10 minutes like literally to the second I structured it. And I mean, there's been times where I woke up at 4 a.m, taking ice baths at 4 a.m, even in the winter. Yeah. And so I did a lot of stuff. Now what I do in the morning is, and I think everyone should have a morning ritual, whatever it is. It tends to become more habitual over time. But for me, I wake up and I do a cold shower. I breathe, I wake my body up.
Yeah.
I do a cupping technique, which I do before I get in state for an interview, which is basically cupping, waking up my body like this, breathing. I do an EFT tapping technique where I breathe right here, shake it out, and I bring my concentration to my heart. Again, I see my head, if it's contemplating ideas or trying to think of the future, I breathe, bring it to my heart, breathe, bring it to my heart. And also I do invocation or affirmation aloud or prayer.
Yeah.
And basically I'm thinking in intention for the day, and I'm basically seeing the day as if it's becoming a great day. And I see it happening, and I'm feeling the feelings, and I'm bringing those feelings into my heart. I think about all the areas of my life that I'm grateful for, and it could be the simplest thing as well, as far as like just seeing the sun and feeling the warmth of the sun, like thank you. And then when I walk out throughout the day, I feel the sustenance of the air and the trees, and I breathe in and smell, and I feel the clothes on my body, and I just bring as much presence as I can for the first part of my day, and then get in state and I go. And then before I do any kind of interview, I want to make sure that I'm in peak state interview or speaking engagement.
Yeah.
Speaking engagement, I go like really intense. That's something where I take the energy 10 times. Yeah. But yeah, I'll do the tapping, I'll wake up, and basically I affirm aloud or incant. And one of the incantations that I've done early on was I had trouble focusing, and I was very spacious. And so I'm not sure. Did we cover this?
Yeah, not before. No,
this is good.
Perfect,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So basically, I had trouble focusing, and so I would basically shake my body out, and I'm like, I am focused. I am determined. Nothing can stop me. All the thoughts and limitations are dissolving, disappearing, and they're gone right now. And I would shake my body out, and I would use my full body, and I would snap my fingers and press right here. And I'm all using this as an anchor. And an anchor is just basically giving a symbol, very clear symbol to your psychology of like, wake up, this is time. So before I go out on stage, like ding ding, let's go, ding ding, let's go, and I'm tapping here because I've done that so many times. It triggers me into a certain state. Your psychology remembers this, and so and so I would do. I'm focused. I am a leader. Nothing can stop me. My body, mind, and spirit is activated, focused, and ready to go right now, right now, right now. I would use my body and really feel it and focus. Change my psychology, the state of my being, with my breath, with the physicality, with affirmation, which is basically the words that I'm saying that is incanting powerful statements. And I did this again and again and again. And I remember traveling. I mean, people would look at me like I'm a freaking weirdo. I mean, I remember traveling for 6 months, living in hostels throughout the United States, and I would do this every morning and every evening, and I would do it so loud, and there would be people knocking on the door like, hey, Frank J, you okay in there?
What's going on?
And then once you do it once you do it for a few minutes, you're buzzing. And then I would just bring that into my heart and just feel my heart and bring as much concentration to my heart.
Nice.
Yeah.
And with fitness and nutrition, I know you travel a lot. Is it hard to stay on track with all that?
I think that I just have healthy habits, because I've been training for a while now.
Right.
And I don't do any consistent physical workout, but I move. As you can tell, we're having a conversation, and I'm like doing handstands, squat, punching. I'm moving my body most of the day, unless I'm online all day, and then I'm like, I feel like I'm almost dead, and I got to get out and move, right? Yeah. So yeah, I drink almost a gallon of water a day. Make sure that I breathe. I make sure that I get some squats in. Just squats, not as like a workout squat, but just sitting in like a squatted position.
Okay.
Going out in nature, I do my best to get my feet on the ground every single day, grounding. Yeah. If I can get in some cold water, like the ocean, I would definitely go out almost every day in cold water.
It's pretty cold at the moment.
It's pretty cold.
Swum?
Not yet.
This week in Manly.
It's shifted?
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Cool, yeah, and then I do sprints. I love sprints, and I just make sure that I move my body. And it's funny because that's how I kind of look at fitness now, and I think of it as play. Like I said earlier today, I was going to the gym for the last 5 days, and when I first arrived, the guy at the desk was like, "Hey, bro, what are you training today?" And I was
Do you lift, bro?
You lift? And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna play and have as much fun as possible. And he's like, huh? What do you mean?
Scrambling.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I hit the bag, I did some pull-ups, did some push-ups, made some stuff up, I did some handstands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So that's what I do.
Because I think within the culture there's this conditioning, we got to look a certain way, and we got to have this and this, and it's very rigid.
Very rigid.
And most of, even the 9 to 5 thing and like these daily rituals that you do, it just puts you in your body. And I think most people are on their computer all day or going to work, and they're in a trance of where they want to be, and they're not truly present. Is there, like, you following your heart and following your passion and really feeling, I guess it's being comfortable in uncomfortable circumstances, and you're creating this journey for you. How does someone find their passion or find what they love to do?
Yeah, this is an interesting idea, because I know there's this whole buzzword of like live your passion out there or your purpose, and I imagine for most people it's not that easy to say, what is my passion, what is my purpose? And I'm going to add in the whole awareness as well to this topic, because I think this is important. So he asked me, how do you raise your awareness? And what I would suggest is to the way to raise your awareness is to get very curious / suspicious about your thoughts.
Right.
And so I mentioned to you a little bit about my story where I was having these obsessive thoughts. And I would, at one point, I remember like detaching from the thoughts and looking at these thoughts, and I was like, wait a second, I don't believe what I'm thinking. This is not who I am. And that was a huge moment for me, because I'm like, wow. I'm like, if what I'm thinking is not what I believe, then what else is not true? What I was labeled as a kid, maybe that's not true. What I thought I liked and who I was, maybe that's not true either. And so I started to look at these things in my life and ponder and say, wait a second, if my thoughts aren't who I am, then could be a lot of illusions. So I started to ask why. Why do I wear my watch on my left hand and not on my right hand? And for a while, I wore it on my right hand. And I would do silly things like that, and I would basically do the things opposite to what I was triggered to do. So the way that I suggest to raise your awareness is to start asking why, and start going against your own conditioning with the simplest things. If you feel more comfortable wearing the same color socks, put 2 different color socks on and walk around and don't explain yourself. And so I think asking why with the littlest things, like, hey, why do I pick up the jar with my right hand mostly? Why don't I pick it up with my left hand? How does it feel this way? And just start really paying attention to the small things. Bring awareness to like sensations on your body. So when you go wash your hands in the morning and like really wash your hands, and I feel like that what that will do is start to raise your awareness, start to pay attention to little things, and you have to train it. You have to train your focus, because the mind, it's like almost we have like a marching band on our head. It's so noisy in there, and if we let it go wild, it will. And so we have to really train our focus, pay attention to the littlest things, the little crevices and colors. And that will start to train your concentration to your awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts, ask why, get very curious / suspicious. And then on the other side of that, to find your purpose or your passion, I would say to look at your tendencies. What are your tendencies? Once you start to pay attention to all these little things, you'll start to see how you feel in certain scenarios of life. And so right now, I feel good. I feel really good having this conversation with you, talking about these certain ideas. This is like, I would pay attention to that. Okay, I feel good. This is something that
maybe I should do more of this.
Maybe I should do more of this. Right? And so you start to pay attention to your tendencies. And as you do that, you'll start to know that, okay, well, like for me, I had all these different groups of people that I was communicating with. I was communicating with people on their deathbed. I was like friends with like these athletes, and I was friends with the drug addicts, and I was friends with like the weirdos, like on the side of the street smoking cigarettes, like in high school. So I was friends with everybody, and I was like, wait a second, I have this ability to connect with people. Like, interesting, pay attention to that. Right. I didn't know about motivational speaking. I didn't know about this whole world at all. I just knew that, like, wait a second, I have a knowing, that inkling that my life was meant for something more. And I imagine a lot of you watching, you have that inkling as well, that you're meant for something more in life. I would suggest to commit Make a soul commitment to that inkling. Know that your life is the mission until your last breath. That is your mission. So it's a lifelong mission of developing a character. And you start to pay attention to your tendencies, and you start to go for it, and you let your feelings be your guide. As something feels really, really good, follow that, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities, especially when you raise your energy and you start to become a more developed human being. You'll have so many opportunities. People are going to want to work with you, offer you jobs, but then you got to stay true to your heart, and eventually this it will manifest itself in many different ways. Just know that it's a long game, that your life is the mission, not any certain circumstance. Your life is the mission, and you go with what is most congruent to yourself, to your feeling, to the tendencies, to those things that light you up. And you'll start to notice this more as you train your concentration to be aware of what you feel in certain scenarios of your life.
I can totally relate, man. Totally relate. Like in primary school, I wasn't considered one type of person. I was like with all the different groups, you know. I felt like a bit of a chameleon at times, like having to, you know, and there was like this weird dance between the groups, and I was friends with everyone. And yeah, it's such an amazing skill to have, I guess. And then myself here interviewing, there was no way I could be doing this like 5 years ago. Like I used to play computer games and stuck in my room, you know. So it's a trip.
It's interesting,
but it can develop. It's just through being aware. I think also seeing other people's experience and going, oh, they're kind of good at that. I wonder how they did that. Or seeing people in their element, or seeing other people passionate or doing what they love. I guess it kind of woke me up a little bit, you know. And I think that's a big part of it.
Huge. And something that I would like to add on too, that I was super pissed off at the way that I spoke. I actually went to speech therapy in elementary school, and I convinced my mom to take me out because I was embarrassed. They would take me out of my class, in the middle of class, to bring me to the special speech class.
Right.
And so I thought I was different, and I didn't want to do that. And so I got taken out of it, and I grew up with speech impairments. Like my friends in high school called me Fwank, because I couldn't pronounce my R's. I had a very small vocabulary. I would curse every other word. And it was embarrassing. As I got older and I started working with, in the workplace with other people, adults, I realized how poor my vocabulary was, how difficult it was for me to have a conversation with somebody. And that pissed me off so much. I had trouble reading. I would start reading, and then I would see the end of the page. My mind would racing so much, and it was dysfunctional. And so that contrast, sometimes the darkest moments of our life, or the most intense contrast, is what sparks us to discover our gift that we give to the world. And so I started to read aloud. I trained myself to read. I would take time to really go through it and see it and over articulate it into the mirror and watch people's lips, how they talk, and watch their body. And I would observe people that really spoke well, and I would ask them, how did you learn how to do this? And I would get very curious. So what I was doing was watching people. What is it called?
Modeling?
People modeled, but when you people watch, people watched for a long time. I would just sit there and I would watch people. Why do they do that? And I started to train my vocabulary, and now I'm a professional speaker. It's the weirdest thing. And I get paid to do this. And so so you never know. You're actually what inhibits you the most may actually be your gift. And so it's a very interesting scenario. That's why you got to pay attention, and you got to train yourself and go for train yourself to be aware and pay attention to your tendencies, and then follow that little inkling, something that's truly scary but also magnetically pulls you to it as well.
Well, they say, you know, we always see the glory, but we never see the story.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting.
And it's just, you know, you look at all these people who are doing great things on this planet, and they came from such, sometimes the most successful people came from the most horrible families and scenarios and things like that, like Oprah, you know. And it's just like all this stuff is learned. And when I used to watch TV, or I used to, it's a habit as well. Success is a habit every day. And I've got on my wall here, I've got goals versus systems. And it's like, if we focus on the goal too much, we forget about the action, or it become too overwhelming if we focus on the goal too much. So just focus on the next step, building.
Cool.
So you've been traveling a lot. Are there some tips on traveling that you've picked up that will help someone, say someone wants to go traveling, what are some tips you can share with people?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I kind of giggled when you were sharing that, because I don't think I'm a great traveler.
Oh, okay.
I think at all. I'm just like, I think what I'm good at is taking risks, and there's much more people that are great at budgeting, great at discovering the tricks and tools and things to travel well, and I'm definitely not that at all. My suggestion is just to get on the plane and go. Just do it, and you figure it out. You do become better over time. Before, I was so naive. I didn't know there was public transportation. Like, I didn't know that. So I was spending like hundreds of dollars on like taxis and like I didn't know, because I grew up in like a suburb, and so I didn't really use public transportation. I don't know. So like that's just a little example. But over time, you start to learn. I would just say, if you want to travel, just pick a place, get on the plane and go, and you learn so much.
Yeah.
You meet people, you get out of your comfort zone, and I think you just become a well-rounded individual, and you just become more educated on the world. And I think it's the best education is to travel. Yeah.
Cool. And we're coming towards the end of the interview.
Okay.
I want our conversation. What are you excited about, like going forward now? What's the next step? And what are you excited about allowing into your life?
Yeah, I'm really excited about a couple things. Definitely getting a bit more structure in my life. So I love the travel and the spontaneity part of me. And I believe that it has opened up doors that may or may not have happened if I stayed in one place. But I do have the desire to have a base, a home nest. And for the purpose of developing more structure with my content. And so I desire to put some of these experiences and these life lessons into a structured book, potentially, and or programs, and or just kind of come full rounded with the contribution that I have on this mission into the world. And so to get more structured with my business and with my content. Also excited about allowing a lady to come into my life and a more consistent relationship, intimate relationship. That's something that I'm really excited about.
Nice.
It's been a long time.
We're gonna the links are below.
What else? Yeah, I think those are two big things in my life right now that I'm most excited about.
Excellent. So the final question is from a friend of mine, Joel Brown. He has a podcast, and he asks at the end of his interviews, he says, if you had 30 seconds, your final 30 seconds on Earth, and you had a 30-second speech to deliver to the world, what would you like to share? No pressure. No pressure.
So I would say that you're not here to please anybody, that you're not your past, you're not your circumstances, and you're sure as hell not the conditioning from the past. That you really have an opportunity, so do I, to redefine who we are and truly live a miraculous life. And miraculous life is really just getting in touch with that deeper part of you and know that every individual on this planet, I believe this, that we're all connected in some kind of way. So all these talents and skills and knowledge and abilities and energies out there, you can tap into that and you can create something incredible. So I would say start your journey and remember that there's no true security in life. We didn't sign up to be safe. I believe the only thing that will make us safe is how open we can make our heart, how much energy we can cultivate, how much charisma and love we can have for ourselves and other people. And so that would be my suggestion to you, brother and sister, is start your journey. Excellent. And continue your journey if you're on it now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, brother.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm sure you guys have loved it. When you write the book and when we see each other soon, or you'll be in a new studio and or another location, I'm sure.
Cool.
And I have to get you back on the show. So thank you so much.
Cool, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate it.